Okay, so if you know that you want to get more ROI from your podcast, but you're struggling or you don't feel like you're getting a good return for your time and investment, then stay tuned. In this episode, I'm about to talk about how to get more of an ROI from your podcast and how to really maximize what you're doing, your time, energy, effort, and what you need to be doing in order to achieve that. What's up? I'm Angie, and you are listening to Podcast That Pays, the podcast for online business owners who want to grow their business and sell their offers using podcasting. If you like no fluff, tell it like it is advice from a marketing loving podcast agency owner, you are in the right place. So glad you're here. Let's dive in. Okay, so I have to start this episode off with talking about where people miss the mark when it comes to their podcast and their podcast content. So, what I see so often is people really struggling to stay consistent. I see people who feel really burnt out. Like, I talk to people all the time who come to me after they've launched their podcast, and they come to me and they are feeling stuck in this place, or they feel like they have this extra thing, they feel like they have this extra thing, or they feel like it's one more thing to do and it feels really heavy, and to be quite honest, it really feels for them like they are doing this extra thing that's not bringing in additional revenue into their business. And let's just be honest right now, like, the thing that people are wanting and prioritizing, and the thing that all business owners are always wanting and prioritizing, is revenue in their business. And so to do this podcast thing, and this goes for any of long form evergreen content, to do this thing, it actually feels like this really heavy additional thing to do in your business, and sometimes not worth it, quite frankly. And so I often, like, in order to help my clients or help solve this problem all the time, I have to help people and business owners see how to get a greater ROI from their podcast and how to really help it work for their business. Because as business owners, we wear so many hats. Like, you're wearing all the hats, you're doing all the things. And so, like, you really can afford to be doing the things that are not bringing you ROI back into your business. And so you really have to be like, move with discretion, and you have to be discerning on what things you are doing and what you aren't doing. But so I totally understand this hesitancy to do podcasting, this hesitancy to, like, put more effort into podcasting. But here is what I know and what I will tell you is that from someone who's been in the online business space since 2008, it's now 2024. I've seen the ups and downs. I've seen what has happened when social media came on the scene and everyone was like clamoring to it, and that was the thing to do. And now, what has happened to a lot of business owners is they built their businesses on social media, and it's like a house of cards. It is not a solid foundation in which to build. It's just not. And is it essential to your business at this point in 2024? Yes. So, but what a lot of business owners are missing is this foundation, is this sustainability and, like, building out content system with long form evergreen content such as a podcast, a blog, YouTube. And the reason why I love podcasting is because of the accessibility of it, like the consumability of it. Like, people are actually consuming it, people are actually listening to it. And I always tell the story about my client who is like hypnotherapist, and she's like, I have to script out all my episodes because I have to be careful because audio is so powerful and it gets into people's psyche. And so I always tell that story as well because it's really important to understanding, like, how powerful audio is. And there's so many statistics out there around who is actually listening to podcast episodes. And you guys, it's high power people who are decision makers, CEOs. Like, these are the people who are listening to podcasts, people with the money that you're so desperately seeking in your business. So those are the reasons why I even love podcasting in general, and why I think it's so important to incorporate into your marketing. And that's also some of the reasons why I feel like people really struggle to keep it going, because it doesn't feel like something that is worth it, and it's totally understandable. So, where a lot of people are missing the mark is that it's what will grow and work for you over and over, as opposed to something that you have to be continually creating. Like, you have to continually be creating this and continually be on this hamster wheel of creating content. So I think it's important to really adjust how you think about how you approach this and how you make this work into your actual business. So that's how I feel like people are really missing the mark when it comes to how they're thinking about approaching their creating their podcast content. And I really will always stand on the fact that I really believe that they should be focusing on creating it as a whole system, because then when you do that, you're really taking into account what your actual whole content marketing system is. And if you don't have one, you really need to create one, or else you'll always be on the constant like hamster wheel of creation. You will always be feeling like you're trying to catch up. You will always feel like you can't take a day off of creating content for social media. And part of this is you just need to calm down, sit down, and create something that really makes sense. So, what do I mean when I say content marketing system? I mean walking into like understanding what content you're creating and for what purpose. So, all of your content is having a purpose. And then having an anchor platform, such as a podcast, and using that as the anchor. So you have this long form content. And then from there, you're creating everything else from that one piece of core content. But the content that you're creating for that anchor platform is very strategic. It revolves around what you're doing in your actual marketing. It's designed to bring new people in, attract new people, grow your audience, to nurture your audience, and to also sell your offers in a very strategic way. So I think that when you create like this and this is what you're doing, then there's less of this feeling of this is just an extra thing to do. And there's more of a feeling of, okay, this makes sense to my entire marketing. This is actually simplifying and making everything easier for me, instead of I have this extra thing over here to create and it's actually draining my time and energy. Because as a business owner, like, the most precious things that you have are your time and your energy. And it also, I mean, you may be paying to have your podcast produced. I mean, and if you're using your time, that's still paying. So you have to be really smart with how you're showing up and what you're doing with your time. So this is why you should be trying to create a marketing system, a content marketing system, and not just out here winging it. So I find that a lot of people in the circles that I run in are neurodivergent, ADHD. Like, creating systems is very counterintuitive. It's part of the reason why they're entrepreneurs, it's part of the reason why they run businesses. I just created a post about this, about um, how like a lot of entrepreneurs are neurodivergent, and it's because like it's not a coincidence, because they don't like to be in boxes, they don't like structure, they don't naturally gravitate towards it. However, what I've learned is that that is most of the time where they thrive. So you probably thrive in that, and if you're able to create that. But the problem is that most people can't create that for themselves. So that's why, like, hence, I'm kind of stepping in and really focusing on this with my clients. And I'm doing this workshop so that I can help people create some sort of structure, some sort of system for themselves, even if you're resistant to doing that. And then the other thing is, I was talking with one of my friends, my biz besties today, and we were talking about this 8-figure entrepreneur marketer, digital marketer. And he was really just simplifying what it is to build revenue in your business, what it is to increase your revenue in your business. And really, it's all about having a repeatable system that you can use. So, meaning, if you are always just throwing spaghetti at a wall, if you are always just like saying whatever comes out of your mouth at whatever time, if you never have like a formalized structure, or you never, so every time you go to sell an offer, there's no like, okay, this is exactly what I do every time, and this is the results that I get every time, If you can't have that data to measure, then you can't affect change in in increasing your revenue. So even with your podcast, and I teach my clients this as well, it's like, even in your podcast, like, what are you doing every month to actually get your growth? So people come to me all the time with, Angie, I want to grow my podcast. Angie, I want to grow my podcast. And I'm like, well, what are you doing on a consistent basis? And most of the time, that's nothing, or nothing is consistent, or it's like, this is the things that I'm trying every once in a while. And so, where we always start is we establish that baseline of, this is what you're doing. And so then we can say, okay, now we've done this for consistently for a month. And now we can look and say, these are the results we got. And now we can do more of it. We can do less of what's not working. We can actually measure and change and adjust. And this is the most important part of marketing. That's the most important part, because it's all about collecting data and seeing what's working and testing things and being able to tweak them. And if you never create that baseline, then you can never get to that place where you're able to tweak it and get better at it. And so that's where I think it's really necessary to be able to create that content marketing system for yourself. So it's very important right now, with everything that's going on, with all of the energy, all the things you have to do with your time, to be able to systematize it and to be able to understand what is actually working with your business. And this should be a priority for you right now. Like, content is the lifeblood of your entire business online. It's like, that's the inventory that's on your shelf. That's how people know what to buy from you. That's how people know what you're selling. It's very important that you have this piece in your business. And so I hope that you really got something out of this. And I really want you to change your perspective on how you're creating content, because it's so important to your business, and it's so important to start taking the drama out of it and to think about it in a more sustainable way, because that is the path forward and how you're going to build the foundation for all of your content and your marketing moving forward.
Hey, if you enjoyed the show, head over to podcastthatpays.com to get started on your way to creating a podcast that pays. And don't forget to follow this show and take a screenshot that you were listening and tag me on Instagram at Angie M. Jordan. I'd love to meet you and show you some love over there. Thank you so much for being here. I love you. Let's get this money.